Today we'll be talking about South America and in particular the city of Cartagena in Colombia. The first whites to set foot ashore here in 1509 were the Spaniards of the Alonso de Ojeda expedition. The Spaniards who landed were attacked by the natives, and after losing a few men, they retreated back to the ship. The Spaniards returned to this place in 1533. 200 settlers led by Pedro de Heredia landed on the Baltic coast and founded the city of Cartagena. Thanks to its favorable location in a convenient bay, Cartagena became one of the most important transit points for trade between the Old and New Worlds. And it also became the main port for exporting gold and silver mined from America back to Spain. The population of the city in 1540 was about 2,000 people. Cartagena's wealth attracted many pirates. They hunted ships carrying gold and silver, and more than once attempts were made to plunder the city itself. 5 of them were successful. In 1544, pirates took control of the city under Robert Ball and plundered Cartagena. After this raid, the inhabitants began to build defensive fortifications for the fortress. Now, the most interesting part begins. The city had a population of about 2,000, and they began to build defensive structures. In 1568, they managed to build a fortification wall and fortress to protect the strait in the inner harbour of Cartagena. Let's see what residents of a small town can build in 20 years. Check the size of this immense battlemented wall. Here is a stellate, star-shaped, or bastion fortress. It was built entirely by the inhabitants of a small town, as we have been told by historians. This painting from 1667 shows how the Europeans were attacking the city. By the looks of the city, you might think this is Europe, but this is the view of Cartagena, Colombia. This city, according to historical data, can accommodate no more than 10,000 people. Look at the scale of the city in this European edition of these massive battlements. All this in 1667, when there was no time to build, or with what force was it built, is unknown. Now we'll move on to an interesting book that was presented by Martin Liedtke. As usual, the link to the book will be posted in the description. Here, in this photo, we see the arrival of the Spaniards. The locals greeted them with flowers, holding a vase in their hands. Here in the next photo, there is a battle between 2 European detachments and half-naked natives escaping on a boat. Look at the natives. They look completely European. In this photo, local women are offered for sale. Look, they are no different from Europeans. A little further, you can see a person being put in a pit for an unknown purpose, or being buried as if they were going to behead him. This photo seems to show an epidemic. Look at the person they put in the water to bring down the fever. And slightly further, you can also see the sick or injured. Also, there is an interesting photo on the boats. There are people of both white and dark skin. The artist isn't mistaken about South America. This happened where there were white-skinned tribes of the European type, and there were also black people. The following photo is generally a masterpiece. We see half-naked white people running away. The natives were performing a kind of dance. Now, the most interesting thing, we can see dragons on a leash. Moreover, even more interesting, one dragon is placed over the fire and roasted as if it was just a pig. In the background, we can see the locals appear to barrage the ship. In the foreground, women of an all-European appearance. Here, this is an attack by the locals on the Spaniards. It sounds like an insurrection. All the difference between local and European men is their hairstyle, almost as if their hair had fallen off their heads. Here we see how the Spaniards treated the locals. Also, a real riot where people were crucified, priests were killed, and the city was set on fire, while that interesting person with a cudgel tries to destroy the chimes. Here we see how the Spaniards attacked the local settlement, killing everyone. The valuables are then collected. These half-naked people bring rather complex products. Where do they get them from? Here in the next picture, people are fatally attacked by dogs. Look, What a strange breed of dogs. Now, we see the retribution of the Spaniards as molten metal is poured into their mouths. Further, we see a human leg being fried. You can see that the facial features and the shape of the skull for local men differ from Europeans. Also, they are all white-skinned. This is another tragedy in the woods where people are hanged from trees. In the rest, the madness seems to have spread all over the place. Look at this local temple. Look at the deity in the temple with 5 heads and eyes on the stomach. Generally, it's an interesting book. You should browse through, and a link will be provided in the description. Historians say that there were no white people on the American continent before the discovery of Columbus. They also say that there were no big cities at all. In fact, huge star-shaped fortified cities were preserved. Also, we're told that it was built by the inhabitants of the city in which less than 10,000 people lived. In ancient books, we see in photos of Europeans that they appeared only in loincloths. Women were no different from European men. They differ only in their facial features. After browsing this book, I feel that these white tribes simply lived on the ruins of ancient cities. They didn't build them. Perhaps these are the remnants of the white race that inhabited Africa and America. Look at the men's hairstyles. They have a very strange fashion, as if they've lost their hair from the top of their skulls. And once again, we see the cannibalism. Perhaps humans were the main menu of the ancient white race.